seems to me that we live in an age where it's extremely easy to get extremely triggered and to have extremely bad conversations, both online and in real life, with the people that we love and total strangers alike. And this recently happened to me. I posted something on one of my social media pages and went out to eat with my sister who's in town, had a lovely evening, came back and saw that somebody had responded to it and had really mischaracterized what I had posted. And it triggered me. But I didn't explode and attack the person and wreak digital havoc. I did not spill digital blood. And this inspired me to make a video about how, from a Zen perspective, you cannot get triggered and have a decent conversation with somebody. So when I was a Zen Buddhist monk, towards the end of my life as a monastic, we had a crisis in our community. And none of us monks and nuns and the lay students and the board members were really very used to talking to each other. And now that we were dealing with this massive crisis, we needed to be able to communicate. So we had to bring in outside help. And we got a Roshi from a nearby Zen community, a wonderful female Roshi, who came in, put us all in a circle, and did what she called circle practice with us. And of course, there were certain rules for circle practice. So we had a talking stick. I know maybe it sounds a little bit cheesy, but it wasn't. It was important. We had a talking stick, right? And we would just go around in the circle, and the person who held the talking stick could talk. And when that person was holding the stick, nobody else could speak. And we were taught to completely and openly listen. So this meant no crosstalk. So someone could be holding the talking stick and pointing at someone else and saying, "You murdered my mother and you defiled her corpse." No crosstalk meant that that person that was being accused of that horrendous crime could not speak until the person holding the stick was done. In fact, the job of all of us was to deeply listen. And this meant doing our zazen while the person was talking, so breathing deeply and letting the words come in. And we were counseled to notice our reactions and just let them go and hold the person's words and receive the person's words and not be forming a response to them, to the person in our head while they were talking. And I found that always when people were talking, I was in the back of my head and all the little conversation elves were busy crafting words. And then the other elves were throwing them together in sentences. And then the other elves were yelling at each other to prepare the next argument, put it in the chute, get ready to fire it off. So what this circle practice taught me is that most of the time, when I'm in a really difficult conversation, I shut down. I do not listen to the person that's across from me. And the truth of the matter is, a much larger percentage of the time than not, the person just really needs to be heard. But listening is not always easy. Why? Well, for one thing, I find that if someone is saying something extremely difficult to me, my truly listening to them feels like I'm assenting to their position. But truly listening to someone, receiving their position in good faith, can actually be a situation where you can learn something about another person and yourself. So for example, in this online conversation that I got into, which almost went south but didn't, I sat down and read this gentleman's block of text in the comment he'd left on my social media post. So as I sifted through this guy's text, read it, absorbed it, I realized, wow, I more or less agree with this guy. And as I continued to read his post, I understood his point of view. Oh, he's speaking from personal experience, his personal experience, and it's very different than mine. It's very different than mine, and I respect that. And I noticed something. As I allowed myself to respect his point of view, I felt respect for myself and for my own point of view. I didn't feel attacked by him. I didn't feel like listening to what he was actually saying instead of projecting all these things on this guy. I didn't feel like that was making me vulnerable to attack or to defeat. Actually, I felt like I was standing next to this person as an equal, hearing him out. Point being, listening makes you stronger, deeper, more stable, steady, tall, pure, and true. Do it. Do it, except if someone is arguing with you or making a comment on your social media post in bad faith. So if they're trying to troll you, then you have two options. Delete their comment, or if it's real life, walk away from the conversation. Bro, I'm out of here. Or if it's social media and it's something really nasty and it drives you crazy, and as long as it's not deeply offensive, but if someone's maybe just trying to get your goat, something I like to do sometimes is just like their comment or give it a nice little heart. No comment, no anything, and then just move on. So when we did circle practice in our Zen community, and when one had the talking stick, the practice was to speak openly from the heart, using I statements, not we. So you had to speak for yourself. You couldn't align yourself with the royal we. You needed to stand on your own feet and state where you're at. And it was interesting watching people who normally would puff up with self-righteousness and attack from this position of the royal we, having to dial back that energy and simply speak their own heart and their own truth. What it showed us is that everybody has a point of view, and in circle practice, nobody's point of view was greater or could overshadow another person's point of view. And it helped me see that I have a point of view too, and my point of view is valid. And to get around a lot of the BS that goes into normal arguments, I can state my point of view. If nothing else, it helps me get very, very clear on where exactly I stand. And it also keeps me from getting roped into other people's perceptions of me. So it's not my job to correct other people's projections onto me. It's only my job to state my point of view and to be clear on my point of view. So in circle practice, when you had the talking stick, you were advised to say what you need to say, but be lean of speech. Lean, as in trim. So if you've done the two things that I talked about today for having a good Zen conversation, truly listening, and then speaking and stating where you're at, you don't need to say much. You can be lean of speech. My sister is here now, as I mentioned earlier, and she is a Hollywood screenwriter, and she's always pitching stuff. And recently she was pitching a project to somebody, and she said later on, that person just didn't get me. And I thought this was a wonderful comment. That it wasn't, I didn't convince this person of my worth. I didn't make this person see my point of view. It was simply, this person didn't get me. Not everybody's going to get you. It's okay. It's not your job to convince people of things. In other words, if you've truly listened to someone and you've stated where you stand, life is short. Move on. So these 3 conversational tips from the Zen point of view. Listen completely. Speak your truth. Then get out of there. Be lean of speech. I didn't just pull them out of my hat. They're based on basic, fundamental, core Zen Buddhist principles. So in Zen Buddhism, a person does not have a fixed, solid self. And this has massive implications. It means there's no one true and absolute point of view. So when I'm in a conversation and I'm absolutely convinced of what I'm saying, it usually means I'm missing something. And a greater truth is going to arise from the interaction, from me listening, completely receiving the person, and then completely giving to the person. The person comes into me, and I give myself back to that person. We create a relationship. That's what my teacher called this, making relationship. And from this interaction between the two of us, I feel like a greater truth can be born. But I feel that this is something that's missing in a lot of our public conversations these days, certainly politically, when we're talking about the left and the right, but also in our personal conversations. It's almost like I feel we've forgotten that we share common ground, that good and bad and right and wrong and left and right, all these things, you, me, and our worst enemies, Putin and Zelensky, Hitler, Roosevelt, the fox and the hare, we all have the same source. We all share one cosmos, and this is our common ground. And this common ground runs deeper, you could say, than our personal differences, no matter how vast those differences are. I don't have a fixed self, you don't have a fixed self, none of the people or the things around us have fixed, permanent identities. We're all arising from and disappearing back into one source. So I hope this video helps to soften you a little bit, maybe open you up for your next potential argument that's waiting around the corner. If you enjoyed this video, if you got something out of it, there's more of this kind of stuff at my Patreon page. I'll put the link below and also in the description. I offer these videos for free, but if you get something out of them and if you want to support me, that's great. There's a PayPal donation button, and like I said, my Patreon page you can go to as well. I love getting new people on Patreon. We have good conversations over there, and there are tons of essays and blogs, and I feel like it's a nice little Sangha community that's developing. Join us. Also, hit the subscribe and hit the like button. I'm going to keep putting stuff up here and connecting with you, making relationship with you, giving and receiving as best I can. Ciao, and have a great day, friends. Bye-bye.